Let's do this.
What up, Jay?
What's up? Episode 53. Let's go. We got a special guest on today, which we will introduce in a moment. But first, let's do some shout outs. It's
Who you want to
cancer
shout out?
season. I want to shout out new friendships,
Oh, yeah.
new connections. And that's going to actually connect to how I met John Jeff. So that was actually good. Didn't mean to do that, but here we are. Did you have anybody that you wanted to shout out?
Mm-mm.
No, no shout outs.
Not for me, not today. Sorry. I didn't. I should have thought about that.
John Jeff, do you want to shout out anybody? We'll go
Um,
with you.
I want to shout out the mother that I met at the farmer's market this morning as I was buying flowers. I bought these like beautiful wildflowers, and people were commenting on how pretty they were, and I was like, yeah, and they last so long. They're
Hmm.
they're they're beautiful, like, and they once they've died, you can dry them. And this mom was with her two kids, and I was telling her this, and then I walked away, and I heard the kids say, "Mom, who is that?" And she was like, "That's just a really friendly person." And
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
so sweet.
thank you for teaching your children to that strangers, like, being friendly, and strangers is community, and that's what it's all about, and not everything and everyone is something to fear.
Oh, I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I would also like to shout out, I did go to a roller derby match last night. So the cherry bombs, it was legit. Like it had it all.
Nice.
Speedy, like racing, some fights that broke out, which was a little scary but entertaining. So, cherry bombs, shout out. Let's get into it though. So, I'm excited to have John Jeff on North Node. One, I have a whole list as a Virgo rising. One, because the way we met was so cosmic. So I met John Jeff at Hyde Park Storytelling, and he'll get into that. But when you got up there and you started telling your story, one, I was just like in awe. And two, it felt like I wanted to like slow you down because I wanted to feel every bit of what you were bringing. Like it felt such, it was very, like it was muy rico. I'll say that. It was beautiful. And so then I was like, while you were telling your story, I was like, I have to meet him. And and afterwards, uh, well, we made a mutual connection with Izra, and I didn't know that you met her until later. I'll get to that in a second. But we stayed, me and my friend Laura, we stayed longer than expected talking to her. And then I was like, oh, I need to find John Jeff. And then all of a sudden, you just like appeared out of nowhere. And I was like, yes. And we hit it off right away. I was like, this is like a really cool soul connection. And I think we ended up talking about several things, astrology, of course, and then also post-traumatic growth, which I would love to get into more with you. And then I guess it was like a couple weeks later, I was supposed to meet up with Izra at a Moment of Tea because I met Tran, who is the owner of Moment of Tea, at the storytelling event. And then I get there and you're there. And we had been trying to schedule a meetup prior to that. And it just felt so like the universe was like, you guys need to connect.
Yeah.
So I am really grateful for that series of events. And I would just love for you to introduce yourself, tell us about you. Yeah.
I'm happy to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to tell the story slowed down as well, but
Mm,
it's I think the thing that as I introduce myself, the problem I'm trying to solve is like, how can we tell our stories in a way that we don't compress and compact the nuance and the richness into
Mm,
these like sound bites.
mm.
And granted, like 7 minutes to share your story on a stage is still a lot more than like a 7 second hook on social media. But anyway, I'm John Jeff, and like I don't love to use nouns to describe myself. I like to use verbs, so I'll use the verbs like I write, I talk, I engage with people about loss, grief, and all of the good and bad of change, and all of the positive, creative, empowering things that can come from it. And that's what I do. And I wrote a book that came out earlier this year called Gutsy Grief. And it is the story of losing my dad to suicide and all of the meaning and self-discovery that came from that process. And then a lot of like the very unique, mysterious things that came up as a result of his death that I can share a little bit more about. But yeah, I would say like I'm on a mission to bring grief into a more prominent public space so that we can engage with it in a way that um I think reduces this belief that it's like the boogeyman hiding in the closet and that we can only engage with it privately in darkness and otherwise avoid, deny, or push through. So,
Mm, beautiful. Yeah, because when I think of grief, there is this like energetic collective heaviness to it. And this sort of like, oh, reaction. I mean, there's all
yeah.
sorts of elements of that, right? Um, you want to open up more about that, like your relationship with grief, what you've gained from either like telling us more about your story or just like
Yeah.
really sinking into the process of grief.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell the story. So, again, at the risk of reducing this down to the most prominent elements of it, my dad died of suicide 10 years ago, and he was someone who very publicly was didn't seem like he was struggling. I studied happiness um after he died, and he he didn't demonstrate any of the things that we look for from someone who may be suicidal. And in fact, he represents a lot of the things that are the hallmarks of happiness. So very civically engaged, a lot of social activities, and so it was an absolute shock. I mean, the last person I would have thought would have died from suicide. Um, but flash forward 6 months after he died, and this is the story that I told in Hyde Park Storytelling. As my sister and I were cleaning out his office, we found 30 years worth of journals that he had kept hidden in a file behind like the false back of a filing cabinet. And so that was like phase one of just like, whoa, there's like so much more to people in general, but specifically my dad than I ever would have expected. And so the journals came to represent this link to him that I think changed my perception of relationships and also of time,
Mm,
because it was something that was written decades prior that I had no knowledge of, that served as a link to a version of him that I never got to meet. And
mm,
so it was almost like a new relationship being formed
yeah.
because I was getting to know my dad when he was my age, and it was a very different version of the person I knew. So it also like taught me so much about change and how we evolve over time, and the versions of each other that we know are in constant flux as a result of life. Um, but then it also represented this change for me around like, well, what is a relationship? Does it have to be defined by something that is tangible and physical, or can a relationship exist in a way that is multidimensional and difficult to explain because I've said this many times. I feel like I have a stronger relationship to him now than I did at
Mm,
other points of my life. And what's interesting is in those parts of my life, he also wasn't physically present.
mm,
And so it's like, so again, it really just begins to change what the concept of a relationship is. Um, but then flash forward to 2024, which is like 8 years after he died. Um, and I went looking for something else that he left behind. Because I had had, years of dreams about something else that he left. And I mean, and they ranged from the completely mundane, like, oh, there's an envelope somewhere in a desk, to just like completely fantastical, absurd, like there's passageways and there's hidden things and dropped ceiling tiles and stuff like that. And I
wow.
pestered my mom about it for a long time, and she was like, "There's nothing there." But long story short, again, for the sake of time, um, I finally provoked her to go into the attic with me to just clean out the attic because it's the only place we really hadn't explored after he died.
Mm,
And after the painstaking labor of like moving old boxes with tax returns and like old stuffed animals and just like minutia, um, I found this like box that was so old that it was the kind of thing that like if you touched it, you thought it was gonna like turn to dust.
mm.
And but it was also the kind of box you're like, I don't want to touch that because I don't know what's inside. Like I'm afraid of like what creature is
Yeah.
living there. So I finally opened it, and inside there was a manila envelope, like one of those like ones you see in like TV shows from like the 80s and 90s, like the inter office memo, like in the manila envelope with like the metal tabs on it. And
Mm,
it was so old that like the metal tabs broke when I opened it. But it was an envelope that was addressed to me from him, and inside were four letters that he wrote me the year I was born. And I didn't talk about this in storytelling, but
so exciting.
what's crazier about this is I found the journal, I found those letters in 2024 when I was 37. He wrote the letters to me the year I was born, 1987, when he was 37.
Wow.
And I was just like my mind was blown. Like you can't make this up.
No.
And I found the letters, and I mean the thoughts in my mind, the first thought was like, can I curse?
Fuck yeah.
Okay. I was like, fuck everyone who says intuition isn't real.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Like, fuck everyone who says that like dreams aren't messages or
Hmm.
signs of
Yes.
something. I
Yeah.
Yes.
was like, fuck all of you. I was
Hmm.
right. I knew there was something. I just had to believe in it enough to go looking for it.
Hmm.
That was one. The second is I was like screaming for my mom both to be like, I told you so, and also like, can you believe this? And the third thought was like, I'd been thinking about writing the book, and in fact, earlier that day, I had met with a publisher for the first time to talk about the idea of the book, and I was kind of like, we'll see. And then the third thing I thought was like, well, I guess I'm writing about this. Like, I guess this story is like no longer mine. Like, it can't be. It's
Uh,
just too
ma
crazy. It's too
magical.
wild. Yeah, it's too magical not to
Yeah.
like share with other people.
Yeah.
So so began the journey of writing about the book, and so or writing the book. And so Gutsy Grief is one part my story of navigating loss, told from the perspective of reflecting back on 10 years, and the told in parallel with the things I learned from his journals about him, about life, about myself in comparison. And um yeah, and so that is the theme of Gutsy Grief. And I think like what I would say about it is for a long time I struggled with who cares about me? Like I'm not famous, I'm not a celebrity, I'm not an influencer, I'm not on a reality TV show. Like I'm just a person. And And also, I think I fell victim sometimes to the to this idea of like terminal uniqueness, which comes from recovery communities, and just this idea of like my story is so specific. Like, how could anyone possibly learn anything from it? Like, there's no point in me sharing. And I don't know if it was finding the letters or studying happiness and learning about all of that that changed it for me, but I just kept this like phrase kept coming back to me, which was like you can't stay inside of me, meaning this story, like you can't stay inside of me, like it can't stay here. So I ultimately wrote the book, and um I we talk a little bit about post-traumatic growth, which we can talk about, but to get to like the I think something that I've been dealing with lately is again like the squiggly nature of all of this, because I writing the book was healing but also incredibly provoking,
Mhm.
because it forced me to excavate things that I thought I had moved past. And so again, I think I go back to this like time traveling thing, which I say like time traveling's real. Like
Mhm.
maybe not physically, but like emotionally and spiritually, I did a lot of like exhaustive and
Yeah.
exhausting time travel back to the last, not just the last 10 years, but then to times that my dad wrote about. And um and so while the book was healing, it was also very like digging at like old wounds,
Mhm.
and also just um like the postpartum depression that comes from birthing a book. I don't think, or any creative work, I don't think we talk about a lot, because I wrote the book thinking that I would come out of it feeling like relieved, and instead I felt very like heavy and insecure. And
Mhm.
again, what's really weird about Signs is the day the book went to print, our dog died, and unexpectedly. And he had been with me through the very intense
Oh,
parts on the couch that I'm sitting on right now, like
yeah.
as I was writing the book, as I was like reciting things. And
Wow.
um so anyway,
Hmm.
that's my story, and that's what has brought me to this point of us meeting. And I think that the phase that I'm in now is one where I'm coming out of the like postpartum part of getting the book out, because I've started to engage with people. And I don't think anyone talks about this in creative like work, that it's really lonely when you put it out there, because um, you don't know how people are receiving it, and not receiving it from a place of critique or validation, but a place of like, how are you experiencing this work? Is it helping you? What is it stirring up for you? You don't know that when you're creating something that is delivered to other people unless they tell you. And even then, like a text message with, wow, this is so great, is different than telling a story on a stage, plugging into source and just flowing, and then having people come up to you afterwards, emotional or otherwise, and sharing their story and telling you that your story opened up something for them. So
Yeah. Wow. There's so much that I want to cover in this.
I mean,
Um,
you asked for richness, so I'm
I listen, you did not disappoint, and I am not shocked, and I love it very much. Um, Also, let's just recognize your big three real quick. Aries Sun, Cancer Moon, and Scorpio Rising. And you have a lot of water in your chart. Mhm.
yeah. Do you want to know, there are two famous people who are also, I'm in good company. There are two famous artists who are the same big three.
Oh, yeah?
Aretha Franklin and Shaka Khan.
Wow.
So
That's great.
I feel very like humbled to
I
be
love that.
That's
in
incredible.
astrological company with them.
That's
Yes.
great.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Um, Lindsay, do you have any questions? I have I'm still listen, John Jeff. You really don't disappoint. Like I'm having this similar feelings that I had during storytelling of just like the energetic depth that you bring. like that you embody, and I can feel it in my own system, and it's so beautiful. So thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Lindsay?
God, there's so much there. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful. I relate so much to your story. Um, uh, was it the last episode, Liz, that we recorded, which was Father's Day, or was it the
It
one
was the
before?
one before
The
that. Yeah.
one. So I just re-listened to that, and so it's very fresh in my mind. And I talk about healing the relationship with my father, who died in 2013, through, a shamanism practice of meeting him in a garden, to basically grow something from there.
Mm,
And then what also stood out to me, what you're saying, is the post-traumatic growth.
Mm.
And when my father died, I was like, okay, well, how do I reconcile this? Because he wasn't in my life. He was an abusive alcoholic, and so I was, in grad school, and made a whole body of work that went through all of the methods of creating. It started out with a video, and it was called Death of the Ego. It was a poem that I wrote, and then I made this video in order to coincide, visual storytelling. And then after Death of the Ego, I was like, okay, well, what do I do next? And so this piece was born, and it's rebirth. And so it's me in a milk bath, and I don't know, and like I just felt so raw after expressing death of the ego, and his death and what it meant to me, and trying to put words to it. And so I leaned into the visual art because I didn't always have the verbiage. So I was
mm,
like, okay, well, I'll speak in a visual language. But really, each method I would explore to express death of the ego, like I would have to reconcile it with like a birthing piece.
Mm.
So
yeah.
I'm curious, if you could go a little bit more into the post-traumatic growth and how you sort of move through that part.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, so the way that I tell the story in the book, and I would say largely is the story I've told myself, is I think that like post-traumatic growth for me was facilitated by the learning about the power to narrate my own life,
Mm,
and and I learned a lot both in so the company I worked at when my dad died is a company that at the time was like very well known for leadership development practices, like uh, learning and development related to personal growth. And so I will say that I had access to tools leading up to his death and then immediately after that helped me to recognize the choice that I had in my experience. And when I say the choice, again, that's not about the choice to feel certain things. Like I was feeling what I felt and it was very real, but the choice to assign meaning to those experiences, um, and knowing that I had agency in that. And again, it wasn't something that I was immediately able to say, well, I'm going to make this mean this thing, but it was something that was simmering in the background as I was going through a lot of the immediate aftermath of his death, because I think one of the complex parts of him dying was all of the like stuff that came out afterwards. And so with suicide loss, like the excavation of like, well, how did this happen? And all of that, um, kind of like I joke and I mean it though, that like the first year after his death was this very like bizarre whodunit, because we were trying to figure out like what did we miss, and there were like all of these forensics of like, okay, well, he went to therapy the day before he died, and we know because we got the bill, and then a lot of like mystery related to things that came out from like my mom's side of the family. And anyway, long story short, there then was a fracture in my family between my mom and my sister, and so I shifted from griever to like diplomat. And again, this idea of like assigning meaning to things is um and again, in practice, I don't know if I was doing it, but in retrospect, I think I can now see that that journey of like the roles that shifted and changed gave me a perspective that um allowed me to not see myself as a victim of
Mm,
this. Um, and so anyway, the post-traumatic growth piece of this, I think, arrives much later. And again, in reflection, so I'm a decade out from the initial event. And ultimately, how I see this is through gratitude. And so I talk about this in the book and I call it level two gratitude because level one gratitude is the things that we are told to like journal about in a gratitude journal. All the things we're thankful for,
mm,
and again, they're mostly positive things like a loved one or a job or a purpose or this and that, a great community. Level two gratitude is expressing gratitude for the shitty things that have happened to us.
mhm.
And again, I don't think that that's possible a year after a really traumatic event.
Yeah.
I think it's only possible with the dimension of time and space to reflect. But for me, when people say, I'm so sorry for your loss now, I always say, I'm not. Thank you, but I'm not. I am grateful for this experience because I am a stronger person. I am a more empathetic person. I'm a smarter person, and I love who I am. I feel infused with a sense of purpose, and none of those things would be possible had I not gone through all of the shit that I've been through to get here.
Mhm.
And for me, that is the post-traumatic growth part of this. And again, a big part of that are the different roles I played as griever, as diplomat, um, as roles that I chose. And victim, villain, and hero are not roles we choose. It's roles that we feel compelled to operate in because of the cultural perspective on what it is to grieve or be a suicide loss survivor. And I could go on for much longer about that, but I'll leave it there for now.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the it can be called the disempowerment triangle that I'm familiar with about.
Yeah,
Are you familiar with that one?
a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah,
Yeah. So like these roles that you're speaking to, they're protective and they actually limit us from evolving in our own journey because we're so absorbed in somebody else out of fear, typically,
yeah,
of like, oh, I need to make sure this like p other people are maintained or whatever, or attended to, and we have some sneaky subconscious ways that we avoid our own grief
yeah,
and sitting in that.
yeah,
So yeah, I really appreciate you speaking to that because you're speaking to the theme of like victimizing versus like recognizing your own agency in any given situation.
yeah. And I think that agency has gotten a bad rap in the last couple of years. And I respect that there are structural and systemic challenges to the idea of agency.
Hmm.
Um, and at the same time, I think we can recognize those and explore what they mean and where they apply to certain things. But I also don't want to wholesale dismiss this idea of agency because we can recognize that there are um, structural and systemic challenges to areas where we may not have choice in our lives or
Right.
where the results of our lived experience can really compromise our ability to take responsibility or present a situation where there are things we don't actually need to take responsibility for. But um, at the risk of yeah, at the risk of dismissing those, I always go back to the question of, what do I have choice in here? And it's usually there's a lot more that I have choice in than I initially recognize. I think maybe that's the actual question here. It's not that we have 100% responsibility and choice in all aspects of our lives, but we usually have a little bit more than I think we do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could. hear the true complexity to what we're speaking to around agency for sure.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And so holding all of those pieces as much as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, can you there's so much. Can you tell me about uh something that was really surprising that you discovered in your journey that you only could find through time and reflection and processing and like even what surprised you about yourself?
Yeah. I know. Like I already know what the answer to this is. And it's around work and
Okay.
identity. Um, I've worked in like leadership development, training, HR, all of that type of stuff for most of my career. And I I'm a pretty ambitious, like type A achiever, like was like that with school. And barring like a few years of like post-college, existential, what am I doing? Like a pretty like linear person. Like I'm gonna I'm gonna set a goal to be the valedictorian of my graduating class in high school. I'm gonna set a goal of getting a scholarship to go to this school. I'm going to set a goal of getting promoted and setting, and having a very linear career trajectory. And most of that stuff happened, or I came very close to it. And what's interesting about my relationship with my dad is we were very close when I was young, and then not close from like, and pretty distant, and I refer to him as like us just like orbiting each other.
Mm,
Like we were always like in the same gravitational pull, but like could never get close enough from
mm,
age like 7 or 8 until I was probably like 18, 18, 19. And where we became really close when I was an adult was around this idea of achievement.
mm,
And he was just so proud of me. Like anything I did, it was like it needed to go in the newspaper. Like any achievement I made academically or professionally, it was something to be celebrated. Um and I don't think I understood that dynamic until he died. And what was most stunning about his, or one of the most stunning things about his journals is just how much he talks about work.
mm,
He owned his own business. He didn't go to college. He very much is a like started from the bottom, like climbing utility poles, and then became the owner and president of his own company,
mm.
and was someone who like was he I mean he was grinding himself. And his journals are probably 80 to 90% about work.
Oh wow.
And everything from like the like trivial like workplace BS to um framing things that happened at work as this almost like mythological story. Like he wasn't telling it like I went to the boardroom and had a meeting with these people. It was like there was metaphor
Mm.
and storytelling where he was a big history person. So it was like told as if you were in some type of like battle.
Oh
And
wow.
and
That's
I just was like, wow, this is so fascinating. Like this is central to his identity. He mentions me and my sister periodically. He never mentions like my sister's children, or the fact that he became a grandparent. And that doesn't surprise me because he was not a very like family person. And he was definitely like a very individual achievement oriented person. Um, and I don't think I realized that I had like learned that and absorbed that and done that myself until I read it and was like, oh, wow, like I'm reading this about him. I see myself in this. And at the time that I was reading this, I was at a point in my career where I had kind of like torpedoed my life after he died. and was going through this very intense quarter life crisis of like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
And at the time, I didn't see that as a necessarily a bad thing. I took it as, oh, I need to borrow a note from him, hustle and grind, get my ass back into a job,
Mhm.
climb the ladder, and then that's what I did for like 7 years after he died. Um, and it wasn't until I started writing the book that I was like, oh shit, like what did I do to myself? Like
Wow.
what I had outsourced my identity to work and achievement at the cost of my health, at the cost of my relationships. Um, and I don't think I realized it until I had, and I hate to give him credit because he's like this, and the fact that I'm even talking about him, I hate. It's like someone I worked with who's this very charming, like Matthew McConaughey, like handsome, straight guy who like was kind of mediocre at his job, but because he was so charming and handsome, he was like very successful. And
Mm.
we were at like an offsite um and got really drunk. And we were like at the pool, just the two of us. And we were just like, talking and he just looked at me and said like, because we I traveled a lot for my job and more than I needed to. And he just looked at me and was like, "What are you running from?" And
Dang.
and I remember being so defensive about it and but then crying and being like, "I don't know what I'm running from."
Mm.
And I need to text him and be like, I owe you this. Um, Despite the fact that you have all of the privilege of being a handsome straight guy, you were so right about this. Um, and that planted a seed of like, oh, like what am I running from?
Mhm.
And so I think that that is the most fascinating thing I learned about myself because then two of the chapters in the book are actually about work and about how it took all of that to realize like um because again like the dark part of this is like there's also the apple doesn't fall far from the tree myth.
Yeah.
And there's part of me that's like I don't want to wake up when I'm 60 and be deeply depressed
Yeah.
because I have prioritized the these fleeting things in my life. And again, I want to make it clear, I'm not saying I can diagnose how or why he died from suicide, but I think there's enough information in his journals and what I know about his life that it would be unwise of me not to extract some type of learning from that to be like, okay, um,
Mm.
I believe that my dad outsourcing his identity to work and achievement is a lesson to heed.
Yeah. Yeah, and that speaks to the time traveling piece of like you like paralleling him.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there something that made you laugh when you read his journals?
Um, I mean, there's a lot that made me laugh. I think what made me laugh a lot is his it's like his I mean, he was someone who operated on what I saw as a like a joy to rage spectrum. And I always say like rage not in like a violent way. Like
Yeah, yeah.
he was not abusive. But like I always saw him either happy or angry. And just
Mhm.
seeing the things that like made him angry that seem so silly are like the same things that I get angry about and are really silly. Um, and so I did get a laugh at a lot of things that he just like goes on for pages about, and I'm just like, you're spending so much time talking about this inconsequential conflict. And I know that I as well simmer on these inconsequential conflicts in the same way. And again, specifically things that are related to work. And it's still something I'm working on. Like I have written hate mail to people I work with in my head so many times, and then I think back at it, and I'm like, what, like, why? This is so silly. Like, work is so made up. The idea of work is so like
Mm.
it's hilarious. It's this like strange like pseudo religious game where we like pay our acts of corporate contrition
Yeah.
and worship at the altar of corporate executive ego. And then we spend all this time being angry about it. And it's like, it's a full-time acting job.
I love that you're saying
That
that.
is such a great description.
It's a full-time acting job. Yes. And a
Uh,
full-time improv. Every day I'm like, okay, what are the rules? Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I have gotten really, like, I've gotten dangerously good at it. And I think that's the other thing I realized too is I was like, oh, damn, like, my ability to, like, become successful in a career has been from being able to just, like, toe the line between authenticity and acting. It's kind of, and it's actually more like a reality TV show because,
mhm.
like a full-time acting job, you're acting 100%. You're playing a character. Work is more like a reality TV show because you're amplifying parts of your personality to fit the narrative. And I think that's also really dangerous because it can trick you into believing that that is like who you are.
Yeah.
Um, Eventually I got to a point where I was like, okay, I know when I'm like producing this and I know when I'm not. But again, I could my corporate my alter ego, and there's actually an entire chapter about this in the book.
Awesome.
Um, and he's called Corporate Johnny, and he just like shows up and like gives what the like again, I just worship at the altar of the executive ego. I know what to say. Um, but I give a little bit like I give enough of myself that like then the corporate like it's not brown nosing, it's not like I'm like poking enough that it's like, oh, you're engaged, like you're comfortable with conflict, like you're you know you're comfortable with candor, but like not the full like what the fuck are you doing, like how are you the CEO of a company. um so
Yeah. This is great.
thanks.
There are some managers where I'm like, how did you become like I don't understand. How did you okay,
Mm.
Yeah.
got it.
Hmm. Lindsay, did you have a question?
No, but I do want to go back to this thing about time. It's
Sure.
interesting, Liz, that your question was about time. Um, the phrase, time heals all wounds. And I would always come back with, but it's what I do with that time
Yeah.
that really makes it effective.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just with how you're talking about your experience of grief and talking about your journey of investigating and rereading, and I know for sure that you have really utilized this decade to really go within and like excavate like your own stuff while also simultaneously healing the major loss of a pillar in your life. Um, oh, I had a question and it totally left my brain. I love my brain so much. Um, yeah, I think maybe I just wanted to arrive at the fact that you're just with how you're talking about your journey, I know that you've really utilized your time effectively, which then almost gains you a master's degree in grieving. Um, and in a society where we're like, aren't you over that yet? Why are you still on this? Like I've only got my 30 seconds worth of
Yeah.
blip to articulate this thing, but actually, um, so many people want to shove the grief under the carpet, but it seems like you really dove into it to really like investigate all avenues of how complex grieving can be.
Yeah, and I think that again, time the phrase time heals all wounds. Um I think we can all agree that that isn't necessarily true.
Right.
But the problem is then the moment we challenge that, the idea gets totally like thrown out. And I think again, a lot of and again, when we compact these things into these digestible nuggets, it's it's statements like that that get completely dismissed. And the nuance is that time is a function of healing. Time is
Yes.
a dimension of healing. Like
Hmm.
again, I would never expect someone who is 2 years out from losing a parent to suicide to be capable of the reflection and the growth that I have because it's been 10 years of healing. It's
Mm-hmm.
been, and again, it hasn't been linear. I've like looped back several times. I've made
Mm-hmm.
progress. I would even say that like it's not even about grief being non-linear. It's multidimensional. I mean, there's so many parts of it, and yeah, and so time is an important function of this because we time gives us the diversity of experience to
Mm-hmm.
integrate different perspectives
Yeah.
into our lives, and
Mm-hmm.
those perspectives allow us to see the grief from, again, the different angles that we couldn't because, you know, even a year out from grief, it was a 2D reflection. It was hard, it was sad, it was confusing. Like there was no way I could have like looked under it to see a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And as time went on, I was able to see it from 3 dimensions and then 4 dimensions. And yeah, so I think that the time piece of it we can really lose, and some of that is just a product of wanting to make things like 130 characters or less when we try and explain them anymore.
Mm.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I think about the like the work that I do with individuals surrounding grief, and then also the work that Lindsay and I do with therapeutic theater. And it's really it's really interesting to watch an individual. I mean, obviously there's such nuance to each person who goes through grief and how they make meaning of it and how it lands for them. Um, but to me, I really feel that we need a tribe to walk through grief. I mean, yes, there's an individual process that we must go through, but man, we really need community. And so I always encourage my individuals, like, I can't be your only community. Like, you can't
Hmm.
just do this work with me for an hour each week and then not touch your process,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why I love the group piece that Lindsay and I do because there's something so powerful about alchemizing some sort of central like reenactment that we can grab as a group and help somebody move through it, knowing that they're going to be witnessed and they're witnessing themselves in the process. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was curious to hear your experience of like the community piece and what that's been like for you as you've been in your process.
Yeah, I would say I did it the wrong way, early. And I don't know if wrong is the right word, but I don't think maybe how I'll say it is, I don't think I appreciated the importance of community in the early stages of acute grief. I I tried and quit therapy after my dad died. And keep in mind, like I had been to therapy many times before. Um and I wish I would have known about group therapy after he died. I think I would have benefited from resources like we have in Austin, like the Christie Center, where you have group therapy for suicide loss survivors
Yeah.
to process. And the reason why it's so important is the concept that I call thinking with my mouth, which is the practice of being able to externalize all of the things in my head so that I can make sense of them. And if I'm just like talking to myself, I mean that's beneficial a little bit, whether it's talking to myself or journaling. There are certainly benefits to that. But I think where that benefit is becomes more like available is when we can engage with other people. And again, we talk about like collecting perspectives and being able to hear someone else's story. And again, it's not about getting advice, but
Yeah.
it's about hearing how someone else has navigated something, who has been through something similar to what we've been through, to be able to use that and reflect on it and be like, oh, okay, like I maybe I've never thought of it that way. And so I think that that's why community is so important. And again, it isn't just therapeutic community. I think that being able to make friends as adults with other people with different lived experiences than ourselves, is something that I don't know I fully appreciated for a while after I was grieving, because I think I sometimes thought of myself as like, oh, I don't want to be a burden on people, or
Mm,
or I don't want to be that person. And I think if I could go back 10 years ago and tell myself anything, it'd be like, you're not a burden. And you have no idea how much sharing your story will help yourself and other people. It is such a like spiritually like nutrient dense experience. And I wish I would have fully appreciated that then. Um, so
yeah. What was that process like of moving through those barriers to sharing yourself with, loved ones, but also like storytelling and yeah, like tell us more about that.
yeah, I mean, I think again, when we go back to the dimension of time, I think it took probably like 5 or 6 years to begin crafting the story. Like I
Mhm.
had lived through enough of it that I could craft some type of narrative around it that helped me make sense of it. Um, and I would say what helped it was I was aided by the journals that he left. And but again, I don't think you need journals. I think it could be pictures, it could be conversations with family. I mean, I will say that a big benefit was like talking to my mom and sister about memories, about experiences, about um, stuff that we recalled from life with my dad that helped. So again, you don't have to have a special artifact from a loved one in order to do that. I think it's about um, talking about them and not avoiding the conversation about them at the fear of like provoking some type of emotion. And I think that the way that those of us who are interacting with people who are grieving can do the same. And instead of saying, I think sometimes we're afraid of saying, "Well, tell me about them,"
Yeah.
because we don't want to provoke something. And I think actually a lot of people who are grieving want to be asked, like, "Tell me about them," or
Mm,
like, um, I think Father's Day is an interesting one because like I get again, it's very well intentioned, but I get a lot of texts that are like, "How are you doing today?" And like, "It must be really hard for you." And that again, I'm being a little flippant, like it's very nice. I appreciate the thought. But like at this point, it's just another day for me. And
yeah.
instead, I find things that are like, I don't know, questions about him or like I don't know. I find that to be a bit more like generative. Um, because like saying things like, wow, today must be a really hard day for you is like it's a punctuation, it's not an opening.
Yeah.
It's and sometimes I think it's more for the other person than it is the receiver. And again, I want to be careful to like say like if you're listening to this, like don't hold back from saying that to other people.
Yeah.
I just think that there's probably some more generative, thoughtful, like
Yeah.
gutsy ways to be like, hey, like, what are you doing today? Like, do you do something special today now that your dad is gone? Um,
Right. Yeah, I'm hearing like accessing curiosity towards that
Hmm.
person.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, and again, like I'm a big critic of like we do these things because we've been taught to do them. Like we say these things because we've been told that's what's polite. And I think it's all like really like come on. The like the
Yeah.
scripts we have around certain things are so worn out.
Hmm.
Yes.
Like one of my favorite people after my dad died she like sent me a gift and the note was like, shit, this sucks. And I was like, yes, this is so great. It's not like, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry for your loss and thinking of you. It was like, this sucks. And I'm like, yeah, it does fucking suck.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that was like the most honest way to do it. And I
Hmm.
think sometimes we get really like drippy with reverence and like, I don't know. And it's like, yeah, it's hard because I like, again, I appreciate people's thoughtfulness, but like,
Yeah.
Be real.
Yeah, it's like I thank you so much for sending me this like drippy
Hmm.
ooey gooey poem.
Hmm.
That's just not the place that I'm in.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, it's that I hear you going back to like the balance of like appreciating people's
yeah.
efforts.
Yeah.
And, I agree. I think there could be more honest, like raw conversations about grief and other things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And disclaimer, saying the wrong thing is better than saying nothing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Saying something that is a worn out, tired script or something that I can be thankful for but side eye a little bit, those are all still better than nothing. And
Yes.
and no one who is grieving is gonna be like, I wish you wouldn't have sent that. Um, it's still better than nothing.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we can't all stand to improve our approach to these things.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So that's another piece of this that's present in your story of like talking about, well, us talking about communication and honesty and rawness versus like, because yeah, that is a thing that happens, isn't it? It's like either they're afraid to say something wrong, so they don't say anything at all. And then there's a missed opportunity for connection. And
Yeah.
that could happen in many different realms inside of communication. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I can definitely see that with grief.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Lindsay, did you have anything else?
Um, uh, well, I think I want to touch on the poem comment. Is that um especially with grief, even though it's universal, we all to our own degree might struggle to express ourselves, and art is created specifically to help people express themselves. Um, and yeah, I'm with you. I would probably much rather prefer the shit this sucks card over the sappy poem. But also, I mean, like that's where people sometimes go because art is created because we as the human race sometimes struggle to put into words what it is that we're navigating, or even how to show up in a supportive way.
Mm.
And I think it was actually Matthew McConaughey that said, talked about why art is created and the importance of art and why, poetry is important and visual art and storytelling and um when I'm receiving or on the receiving end of something that, somebody didn't really quite wasn't able to connect within and really express themselves, they sort of half-heartedly send a sappy message or, a poem. I just say, okay, like, good try. You tried.
Ye-
Um,
Yeah, I love poems. I love
yeah, no, no,
creativity.
no. Yeah,
It
yeah.
it was more like the specific I have a specific reference and this person is great. Like I appreciate them so much. And it just felt a bit like I'm gonna send this poem that
Right.
someone wrote to you because I want you to know I'm thinking of you. And
Yeah.
again, like that's great. It just I wish maybe like if I were to like if it were a homework assignment, I
Mm,
would be like B plus. And maybe like an A minus would be like, hey, I'm thinking about you.
yeah.
This has got to be like a really fucking hard time. I saw this poem and it made me think of you.
Yeah.
Versus just like sending the poem kind of like
Here you
I'm
go.
I am
Right.
like I did not consent to this barrage of like poetic like poetry. Like
Yeah.
that I think that's all I'm getting at. And
No, it wasn't a knock. I think it was,
no,
just to
no, but it's
to
good.
expand on
Yes.
on the comment. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. You and I are in the same place of it. I'm just like, how
Yeah.
do I, you know,
Well,
Well,
yeah.
I'm also kind of debating myself because look, there are
right?
also times when I'm much softer and I'm in a moment where I'm feeling differently about that, and
Mhm.
I have a bit of
Yeah.
a softer perspective where I'm like, you know what, that was really kind. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it's like it's a
It
dimension also
depends.
of like
Right.
it just depends. And that's why again, it's so important for people to just do something
Mhm.
Right. Right.
because I remember when I had someone that I worked with who very soon after my dad died, her husband died very unexpectedly.
Mm.
And I remember I said something like, and we weren't close enough for me to say this, so in retrospect, I'm like, that was kind of weird. But I was like, hey, like I'll come there if you need me. And she was kind of like, no, like my whole family's here. Like,
Mhm.
I'm good, stranger.
Oh,
But again, and again, like, but I'm not gonna take that personally from
yeah,
her. Like, I can
yeah.
look at that and be like, yeah, that was kind of weird. Like, but I'm glad I said something
Mhm.
Yeah.
instead of nothing. I would rather like offer too much of myself to the point that it's kind of like confusing than to not say anything.
Honestly, to me, like I think that that's really, really sweet. And it depends on the person, right? Like
It can
uh,
be sweet and weird. Like
it can
it can
be,
be
yes.
sweet
Yes.
and
Yeah.
weird
Like,
in equal measure. Because I think in my head I was like, I'm the expert in traumatic loss. Let me come be with you so you have someone who can like
Mhm.
resonate with this. And
yeah.
it was a total misfire.
Yeah, and that's
But
okay.
it also it speaks to the nuance of wanting to show up and be supportive and
Yes.
how you potentially receive it one moment versus like 2 minutes later versus a
Yeah.
Yes.
later. Like sometimes you can be in that prickly space of, well, okay, that thank you, right? Versus
Yeah.
like just fucking be real with me in this moment. This fucking sucks. Like from human to human, this is a shitty time, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah, and then 2 minutes later you could be like, okay, where's the softness, right? Like and then to have grace with yourself in all ebbs and flows of grief. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Because I also love a good poem.
Yeah, I mean, I probably like poems now more than I did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And truthfully, if I were to be going through something like that now, I would probably be much more receptive to
Yeah.
like a non-consensual act of poetic like bombardment.
Yeah.
Understood. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the debate on like, well, it's not even a debate. It's really talking about like the nuance of people and the interactions that we have in those nuanced ways. Um, John Jeff, is there anything else that we haven't touched on that feels significant?
I mean, we could probably talk for hours, but
True.
in the context of this conversation, no, I feel like we like covered a lot of ground and yeah, I would say like, you know, because I'm not very good at promoting myself, um my book, Gutsy Grief, is out. You can get it on Amazon, but if you want to support the artist more, you can buy it at my website. It's gutsygrief.com. And
I
yeah,
bought it. It arrived today. I'm totally reading it.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's my story, but it's also an offering to other people that I hope is an opening for again like an offering of a different perspective that hopefully people can integrate as a part of a larger process in their journey.
And then you have an event, I'll promote you, an event in August, the Museum of All the Things We've Loved. And on your website, which I will post in the
Yeah,
description, it says a gallery of loved objects and the work that loss moves us to make. I
yeah.
am so excited about this event. You want to tell the audience more about it?
Yeah, it's August 21st and 22nd in downtown Austin. And I was inspired to create this because I saw a post on Instagram. Social media is good sometimes. Where someone was saying like they want to you know, they want to be a museum of all the things they've loved. And I was like, what if we actually just had a physical place that is a museum of all the things we've loved, that is a testament to not only the people, places, things, and identities that we have lost and are grieving, but a place to celebrate all that can be created in that space as a reminder that really awful things can be awful, and they can
Mhm.
also grow magical, powerful, empowered things from that ground. My one of my sayings I've had for a long time is like shit is fertilizer. This is this is an embodiment of that. Like it is
Mhm.
a like this is an example of what can grow from that very stinky, smelly, unpleasant, but nutrient dense experience.
That's beautiful. You just made shit really beautiful.
Thanks. I mean, that's my whole
Uh-huh.
thing. Is like
Yeah.
let's make shit beautiful and not like polishing it, but like truly
Right.
being like, no, like
Mhm.
this is ugly pretty.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us. This was a great conversation about
Likewise.
grief and your story. And I have quite a few things to reflect on in some really good ways from this conversation. So I really appreciate you showing up and sharing yourself, John Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Lindsay, did you have any last words of wisdom?
Yes, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for speaking about your journey. I mean, not only do I personally resonate with it, I know that our listeners will as well. And I really look forward to reading your book. And Liz and I are going to your event, and we're really excited for
Yes.
this. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah,
Thank
Yeah,
you.
everybody in
so rich.
so rich. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody in the Central Austin area or Central Texas area, come to this event. It's gonna be awesome.
It's free.
And it's free.
Even better.
You have no excuse.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, we will call this a complete episode.
Mhm.
And we
Love
are
it.
out. Bye, y'all.
Bye.